r/ProRevenge. How I got all the staff to side with me and my birthday over our boss. Story by heartmyboo. Enjoy! Alright, so this story probably isn't as pro-revenge as most others, but here we go. This is about my summer job. I have worked there from July to October for 4 years now, and I actually really enjoyed it up until this year. So this job is a seasonal restaurant that opens up from May to October, with June to September being its main season. It's a great place for high school and university students to work there over the summer break. We are a team of 7 waitresses and a boss lady, who is in charge of us, makes our schedules, etc. Every year they struggle to get enough waitresses, even though most of us come back year after year. This is important later. So this summer there were 2 days I wanted to get off. One for a concert and one for my birthday party. I told boss lady, I wrote it into the calendar like I am supposed to, and I reminded her again the week before each. She always said I'd get them off. Well, concert rolls around, I get my schedule and I'm apparently working that day. I call her, she is super sorry but she needs me that day. Okay, so I sell the ticket. Then my birthday comes, I get my schedule and I'm working again that day. I ask her what's up with that, and she tells me I didn't tell her and that she can't let me switch with someone else and that I have to work. I tell her I can't because I have already made a reservation in a restaurant, some friends have bought train tickets to visit, and I'm also celebrating with a friend, so I can't just cancel. She said it's not her fault and that is my problem. I was crying hard that day. So I made a plan to switch with my colleague, then called boss lady. She got angry because I didn't ask her first, which I did, and told me we weren't allowed to. We still switched shifts. I got to my party in time. It was great. Next day I get to work and some of my coworker tell me that boss lady has been talking shit about how I didn't tell her I needed the day off and then just switched, and how rude that is. I decided then to quit after that season for good and not to come back next year. I also made sure to be really nice to the other staff members, waitresses, janitors, everyone for my remaining time there. I brought cake or pizza or made coffee for everyone every day. I worked super hard to get in more money than any of my colleagues, which got recognized by boss lady's boss. If I was well liked before, I was loved now. So the season ends and as usual people ask if I'm coming back next year. I say no and tell them it's because of boss lady. I cry a little because I will miss them, but I can't take her talking shit, blah blah. And everyone starts to hate her. So I begin to hear that all other waitresses also won't be coming back because they stand with me, and now they will not have any waitresses coming back next year. They will be in huge trouble finding enough staff. Even some of the non-service staff said they wouldn't come back. Last thing I heard is that boss lady's boss was super angry with her and that she is just a normal waitress now, and that the nice secretary lady will be making the schedules now. TLDR, I was angry because I didn't get the day from my birthday party off, so I made the service staff quit after the season. r/ProRevenge. How I became manager of my store. Story by jussmadd. Enjoy! I started working at a cell phone store back in 2015 and quickly learned how to sell and became one of the best sellers in the company. I worked with several people at the store, one of which was the manager in question, who I will refer to as Douche from here on out. So Douche could not sell to save his life. He was absolutely terrible and walked even some of the easiest sales. He also tried sabotaging a lot of my sales because I was performing and he wasn't. Some time goes by and I was learning operations of the store and became the assistant store manager (ASM). After about a year there, another company bought them out, authorized retailer for those who know what that is, and cut our commission pretty hard. Several of us jumped ship and worked at a different carrier. Meanwhile, Douche is still working for the company and slowly working his way up. He managed a couple smaller stores for a while. In this time period I worked several different jobs, including some wireless sales and then car sales. After realizing I was making more money at the cell phone store, I was at a bad dealership. I called up the district manager (DM) and got to talking with him. At this point there was a different but equally as terrible manager in the store. I sat down with both of them one day for lunch and hashed out what it would take for me to come back. This DM had also promised me management before I had left once the position became available. Well, after being back for a month or two, the manager had been moved to another store and I was the temporary manager, so after doing that for about a month they brought in Douche. Now let me tell you about Douche a little bit. He is an arrogant whose parents pay for majority of his bills. He is super entitled and can never be wrong. He will openly mock you on your intelligence in front of everyone because he sees himself smarter than anyone in the room, even though he was probably one of the dumbest. If you tried to correct him on a sale, he would yell at you in front of everyone. He believes he is God's gift to earth. After they brought him in, I was still running everything in the store. I was training every new employee, doing all of the store operations, etc. I was making it well known with upper management that I was actually the one running the store and was responsible for its performance. But he took all the glory and paycheck, bragging how he is running the best store in the company and that it's all him. But over half of the numbers the store put out were mine. I was single-handed hitting the metrics for him to reach bonus. Now enter my friend. My friend can sell just as well as I can, and Douche was very threatened because he thought we were coming after his job, which we were, of course, because he is a douche. So he decides he is going to try everything he can to get us fired. He was writing us up for the dumbest little things, and eventually he ended up getting my friend fired. He had all the other employees write statements for a verbal altercation my friend got in with a customer. He then was asking the other employees to try to get me to look at their statements. It was very obvious what was going on because 3 different people were being persistent on trying to get me to read these statements. One co-working in particular was responsible for reporting my friend to HR, which got him fired, and she was now helping him go after me. Keep this in mind for later. After I refused, he just decided he was going to tell HR I did anyways. So I was pulled in the back by Douche and my DM and was told I was being investigated for sending my friend the confidential statements, which I didn't, of course. They spent about a good couple hours reviewing cameras trying to catch me taking a picture of the screen, which they didn't find. So at the end of it all I was cleared and they had no proof of me doing anything wrong. There were other little incidents that I knew were traps to try and get me in trouble, but I didn't fall for any of them. I did everything by the book. I covered my ass with every little thing I did since I had a target on my back. I knew it was a matter of time until one of us was going to go, and I decided it was going to be him. For about 3 months I sat and I watched every little thing he did. He didn't know it, but I had a log of every infraction he made, most of which nothing was big enough to get him fired. Then he started making some very big mistakes. He was disappearing for several hours on the clock. One day he left for 6 hours to help his GF move while still on the clock. I waited until the pay period was over to make sure he didn't submit a time adjustment. Strike 1. The next was he was letting customers out the back door. We have traffic counters on our doors and part of a way he got paid was close rate to traffic. This was now commission fraud as his numbers were inflated. Strike 2. The final blow was his dumbest move yet. A customer about 2 months prior had ordered a phone and never picked it up. Douche then had a business customer come into the store looking for the same phone, which was just a $60 flip phone. He told his business customer that he would just give him one for free. He gave him the other customer's phone. So now he just stole from a customer. Strike 3. The setup. After Douche got done bragging about what he just did to me because he thinks he is smarter than everyone, I immediately went to work. I finally was able to contact the customer. The customer just so happened to be the girl mentioned earlier who was working with him to try and get me fired. The customer came in to pick up her phone. I made sure it was a day that the 3 of us were there, but of course it wasn't there. The customer was elderly and was in the hospital for almost 2 months. He has very well f***ed himself now. As he tried to figure out what to do to get out of this situation, I am in the coworker girl's ear on how he gave it to another customer for free. He then asked the girl to go in half with him to replace the phone, which pissed her off. I convinced her to report it to HR since if I did, it could be considered retaliation for my friend getting fired. She calls HR and I told her that she can list me as a witness since I was there for the whole thing. About 15 minutes later I get a phone call from our. I explained the whole situation to them and they asked me if there was anything else they needed to know. Well, since you asked, and I just went down the whole list. I had added up all the time he stole from the company, the customers out the back door, as well as some other things. Now Douche is being investigated. This takes quite a bit of time. In that time we happened to get a new DM. The DM's first day at our store was to fire Douche. I immediately text douche and go, "Damn, what happened, man, heard you got fired," as if I had no idea what happened. He then went off on me and telling me I'm an and he knows I reported him, blah blah blah. It was so sweet to have beat this entitled I got into the new DM's ear about the position and immediately assumed the operational responsibilities again. The best part is was earlier douche told me there is no way I'd go from a rep to manager at that store, top tier store. I'd have to start at a lower store. Well, guess what, not only did I get him fired, about 2 weeks later I get promoted to that top tier store. Last I heard he went and worked at some cell phone kiosk before taking a retail job at Apple. I later fired the girl who was trying to help douche get me fired. She was still trying to get me in trouble, so she put a target on her back. I was able to fire her with cause eventually. I also fired her dumb ass friend for theft. I was the manager there for about 2 years and finally got out after they kept lowering commissions time and time again. Working at a much better place now. TL, doctor manipulated employee to get old manager fired who was trying to get me fired. Then took his position. You are an absolute legend for making it to the end. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button. And if you can't get enough, consider subscribing. See you around.